Looking for magic cards? At flipsidegaming.com you can now use the promo code LVD to get a 10% discount on orders over $10 while supporting the channel at the same time. Hello and welcome to another episode of Friendly Friday, a weekly series where we take a look at budget-friendly standard or modern decks, and this week we're taking a look at Blue-Red Wizards in Standard, an aggressive, tribal-based, spell-based deck. So let's jump right into it here, starting out with our 1-drops, where we have a total of 8 1-mana creatures. We've got 4 copies of Ghitu Lavarunner, a 1-mana 1/2 human wizard that gets +1/+0 and haste as long as we have 2 or more instant and or sorcery cards in our graveyard. So that's going to be pretty easy to accomplish in this deck since we have a lot of cheap instants and sorceries, a lot of cantripping effects that replace themselves, so it's going to be pretty trivial for us to fill our graveyard to make a 1-mana 2/2 haste creature. Then we also have 4 copies of Soul-Scar Mage, a 1-mana 1/2 human wizard with prowess, so whenever we cast a non-creature spell, we get to give the Soul-Scar Mage +1/+1 until end of turn. And the Soul-Scar Mage also has an ability that says, if a source we control would deal non-combat damage to a creature an opponent controls, we get to put that many -1/-1 counters on that creature instead. So we can essentially turn our burn spells into ways of permanently shrinking down the opposing creatures. So for playing against a green deck, for example, that have very large creatures, we can use our shocks and lightning strikes to shrink down the opposing creatures, and that way our smaller wizards can still get in for damage. Then let's take a look at the non-creature spells for 1 mana. We've got 4 copies of Opt, which is a 1-mana instant that lets us scry 1 and then draw a card. We've got 4 copies of Shock to deal 2 damage to any target for just 1 mana. And we have 3 copies of Warlord's Fury, which gives our creatures first strike until end of turn and draws a card. Giving our creatures first strike is actually pretty relevant, since that'll help our creatures get through, maybe attack past the Goblin Chain Whirler if we can enable prowess on some of our creatures. So still a very relevant ability, and of course helps us fill the graveyard for Lavarunner and enable prowess for Soul-Scar Mage and friends. And speaking of prowess creatures, we've got 4 copies of Spellweaver Eternal, a 2-mana 2/1 zombie Naga wizard that has prowess and afflict 2, so if the Spellweaver Eternal becomes blocked, the defending player loses 2 life, which is very useful in an aggressive deck like this one. And the other 2-drop creature in the deck is Viashino Pyromancer, an addition from M19, 2 mana for a 2/1 Viashino wizard. When the Pyromancer enters the battlefield, we get to deal 2 damage to an opponent or one of their planeswalkers. Then we also have 4 copies of Lightning Strike, 2 mana to deal 3 damage to any target at instant speed. And 4 copies of Wizard's Lightning, which is one of the payoff cards for playing all these wizards. We get access to a 3-mana instant that costs 2 generic mana less to cast if we control a wizard to deal 3 damage to any target. And last but not least, we've got 4 copies of Adeliz, the Cinder Wind, 3 mana for a 2/2 legendary wizard with flying and haste, and whenever we cast an instant or sorcery spell, wizards we control get +1/+1 until end of turn. So it's similar to a prowess effect, but it spans across all our wizards, and of course still stacks with other instances of prowess, so a very powerful effect to finish off our opponent if we have a few wizards in play. And then taking a look at the mana base, pretty straightforward. We've got 4 copies of Spirebluff Canal, which enters the battlefield untapped if it's one of our first 3 lands. We've got 4 Sulfur Falls, which enters the battlefield untapped if we control an island or a mountain. 9 basic mountains and 4 basic islands. Very low land count since we also have quite a few cantrips with the Warlord's Fury and the Opt, so we don't need to play as many lands, and our curve is also very low and we don't want to risk flooding out. And then taking a quick look at our sideboard, we've got 2 copies of Spell Pierce to counter non-creature spells, 3 Chandra's Defeats against the red decks, an Unsummon, mostly against the green decks, 4 Abrades to deal with creatures or artifacts, so it can be brought in against the Godfarer's Gift strategies, 3 copies of Negate for more counters for non-creature spells, and 2 Exclusion Mage, also an addition from M19, which we can bring in against the green decks, where we can bounce something expensive and deploy a threat at the same time. So that's the deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Alright, we're on the draw, and I don't really like this hand. 4 lands is a lot to begin with, only 1 creature, and if these Warlord's Furies draw us into more lands, then we're going to be pretty sad. So let's go to 6. And this is better, a bit awkward with double Sulfur Falls and no basic lands, but I'll keep. And do we want a Wizard's Lightning? I don't think I do. I would rather find an untapped land, so we can deploy our 2-drop on turn 2. But of course we want to draw Wizard's Lightnings later in the game. I guess we'll play the island. And turn 1 Opt from our opponent. Opponent on blue-green of some variety. I think I played a Spellweaver Eternal, since if your opponent is playing counter spells, I would rather have the Eternal countered, I think, since the Pyromancer's dealing 2 damage when you enter the battlefield is pretty useful. And now if we do draw a cantrip that we can play next turn, we get the advantage of prowess on the Spellweaver Eternal. So still unsure what our opponent is up to, but I'm just gonna play a Pyromancer. Opponent opts in response, and lets it resolve. Alright, so we've got a bit of reach here with the Lightning Strike and the second Pyromancer. We've got an okay board presence, so don't hate our spot. Our opponent hasn't been doing much. And here we can kind of cycle this Warlord's Fury and enable prowess. Alright, opt is a good one too. I guess we can attack and then cast opt before damage. Enable prowess again and bottom the land. Alright. Opponent does have a commit to bounce or Spellweaver Eternal. That's acceptable. So we only get in for 2, but we still get to add a Pyromancer to the board. So at this stage of the game we just want to draw burn spells and Adeliz pretty much. I suppose there's a chance I should have played the Soul-Scar Mage before attacking, in case the opponent has some sort of flash creature that we can shrink down with the Lightning Strike, but I can't really think of much. Alright, opponent down to 8. Let's test the waters with the Soul-Scar Mage. Alright, let's say go. And our opponent scoops it up. Alright, so not exactly sure what we're up against, but I imagine Negate and Spell Pierce have some merit. And what don't we want if we bring those in? I could see trimming on the Warlord's Furies. And I think I like most of our other cards. Maybe Shock is a bit lower impact. So we'll just bring these in and submit. I think this is a keep. We've got 2 threats and then some interaction thanks to our sideboard cards. So we can go turn 1 Soul-Scar, turn 2 Pyromancer, and then start keeping up our interactive spells. Could also play a Soul-Scar Mage, keep up Spell Pierce. Or I could have played a Soul-Scar Mage pre-combat in case they try to Essence Scatter and then Spell Pierce and get a prowess trigger on the first Soul-Scar Mage. Those were our considerations. I think it's okay to play the Soul-Scar and keep up Spell Pierce, since next turn we get to play Pyromancer, keep up Spell Pierce, since we're kind of limited on blue mana here. And Unsummon, I'm not gonna Spell Pierce and Unsummon, I don't think. I can always opt end of turn if we really want to. Psychic Corrosion. Alright, so our opponent's trying to mill us. I actually think I let that resolve. Not really too concerned with Psychic Corrosion being in play. I would rather counter more impactful cards, since I think we can outrace our opponent here. So do we opt end of turn? I guess we do. Bottom the mountain. And Spirebluff is an upgrade over mountain for sure. So we get to deploy 2 creatures here, I think. Or we can keep up Spell Pierce or Negate. I think I like deploying 2 creatures here, and then I don't think something too bad can happen at 4 mana for the opponent. And then we get to keep up both Spell Pierce and Negate, which is a pretty nice position to be in. So our opponent mills us for a bunch. If we ever draw Ghitu Lavarunner, he's gonna be fully upgraded. The one awkward thing about these counter spells is that it's not really a synergy with prowess, unless the opponent casts a spell in our turn. And there we see Chandra Cores. It's gonna mill us for a bunch with the Psychic Corrosion, but again I think our damage-based clock is just a lot faster than the mill-based one. Alright, Spellweaver Eternal's decent. So actually don't mind playing the Eternal before attackers. In case they Essence Scatter, then we can maybe Spell Pierce and then trigger prowess. Let's attack. So we don't know what the green is for yet. Could be that they're playing some fog effects to prevent us from killing them. As we see a Countervailing Winds cycled. So we've got 38 cards in library, opponent is at 12, so we're definitely ahead in the race. And if we can just draw a burn spell here, we're gonna be in a great spot. Alright, I'll take a Ghitu Lavarunner. Opponent takes it down to 4. And with 2 counterspells in hand, I like our chances. So we're down to 33 cards in library, and our opponent scoops it up. Alright, on to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw, and this hand looks acceptable. We can go 1-drop into double 1-drop, and then hopefully draw some more instants and sorceries to power up our Soul-Scar Mages and Ghitu Lavarunners. So I guess we're leading with Soul-Scar Mage here, since the Lavarunner's not going to be enabled anytime soon here, and there's a chance we enable Prowess next turn. As we see a turn to Druid of the Cowl, I think I'm okay deploying 2 more Soul-Scar Mages here, and then I can attack for 1, since it's kind of a free roll. And there's a chance they don't block out of fear of a shock. They're gonna block. I think it's more important for us to deploy our threats than it is to take out the ramp creature, even though I would like to take it out, but maybe next turn we can go a Lavarunner into Lightning Strike and get in for a big chunk. Alright, so they're green-white. And a Vinemare. Well, that's a problem. Can't Lightning Strike Vinemare. So the question is, do we still attack here? I don't think we do. So we're just waiting for another way of enabling Prowess before we can get in there. We could have tried to bluff attack, but I'm pretty sure our opponent would have blocked, since they did also block with the Druid of the Cowl. A Rabbit Bite. Yep. No attacks. Well, at least the Spellweaver can attack into a Vinemare with Prowess. Still don't think we want to kill the Druid of the Cowl, since we want to save the Lightning Strike to enable Prowess twice. A second Vinemare, yep, that's an issue. But Shock is a great draw. Time to get in there with Soul-Scar Mages and Spellweaver, and see if our opponent's interested in blocking. Alright, so the Spellweaver triggers, and we can probably just 0.5 burn at our opponent. And we get to eat the Druid of the Cowl and trade for Vinemare. So that was a good exchange for us. No attacks from the Vinemare and another Lavarunner, so now I think it's time to get in there with everyone. If we ever drew Adeliz, she would be amazing here, now that we have all these wizards in play. So our opponent's down to 3 in range of a Wizard's Lightning or Lightning Strike, and Evolving Wilds gets a Mountain, not sure what that is for. Alright, Raging Swordtooth, pretty good here. Let's opt. Bottom the Mountain. And I think we just attack with everyone. And unless our opponent has 1 mana interaction here, they're dead. Alright, on to sideboarding against a green kind of ramp deck. So I think we want our Exclusion Mages. Could also consider Unsummon, although against Vinemare, both Exclusion Mage and Unsummon are not amazing. But I'm guessing they're going to be better than something like a Warlord's Fury. I think we just got the Warlord's Fury altogether. Could also consider cutting some of our 2-mana 2/1s, since they're pretty weak against the Raging Swordtooth, but we'll just try to be faster. Alright, so this hand's a little bit sketchy. If we don't find blue mana soon, then we might not be able to cast some of our spells. But we're on the draw, and we do get to cast Lavarunner, Shock, and Wizard's Lightning, so I think we'll keep. Alright, perfect. Let's get in there, and then probably play the Spellweaver Eternal. Also have to be concerned with sweeper effects, since their opponent is playing red. We'll have to keep those in mind, but for now I think we're playing the Eternal. No removal spell end of turn. And for 3 mana it's gonna be Ranging Raptors, that's a good one. So this is where Unsummon can be useful. Could also just kill it with a burn spell, but I kinda want to keep our burn spells to finish off our opponent. So instead we can just Unsummon plus maybe Shock or Wizard's Lightning, and that way we get to power up our Ghitu Lavarunner as well. I think I'll Shock. The argument to maybe use the Wizard's Lightning is if our opponent sweeps the board and we don't have any wizards in play, then we'll want to have used our 3 mana spell, but there's a chance we're going to end up using it on the Ranging Raptors next turn, in which case hanging on to it makes sense. And 4 mana for Vinemare. Alright, so this is where we kind of turn into a burn deck. So our opponent's at 11, Spellweaver gets in for at least 2, so I think we're just attacking with the Spellweaver here, and we'll see what happens. Alright, our opponent takes it, so we can opt, enable prowess, bottom the lands, and do we lightning strike here? Let's see. So this is 3, 7, yeah, I think we just lightning strike, and pretty much if our opponent doesn't have any life gain, they'll die to the Pyromancer and the Wizard's Lightning. So that seems like a good place to be in. Even if they kill all our creatures here, we'll be fine. Alright, Gift of Paradise is going to gain them 3 life, so that's very relevant. And they still have the Ranging Raptors we know about, so yeah, the game's not over yet. Although I suppose we still have the Afflict on the Spellweaver Eternal here. So Afflict puts them to 5, and then we still have lethal, so... Alright, never mind, I guess they're still dead. Let's attack with just the Eternal. Afflict being very useful here. And then Viashino Pyromancer to get the job done. Alright, sweet. So pretty clean kill here. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw. This hand looks pretty decent. Don't have a 1-drop creature to start our curve with, but that's okay. Opponent also on blue-red. Alright, Opt is nice. So I think we'll cast Opt instead of the Fury here, giving us a little bit more selection, and then keep the Fury for after we deploy the Eternals. And Ghitu Lavarunner seems okay. It's gonna be active pretty soon. It's an additional threat in case the opponent kills our Eternals. But for now I'll just play the Spellweaver. And it's gonna get met by a Magma Spray. Alright, glad we kept Lavarunner on top. And an Arguel's Bloodfast from our opponent, but no 3rd land. Alright, time to deploy some more threats here. We could give the Lavarunner haste, but I would much rather develop our Spellweaver Eternal. And then next turn we can go to town with prowess triggers and hope they can't kill our Spellweaver Eternal. Alright, opponent says go with 2 mana up. We can potentially enable prowess 3 times, so a 2 or 3 damage burn spell here would not be able to kill the Eternal. So let's lead with Warlord's Fury. Enable prowess, draw a card, and does our opponent respond with a Magma Spray on the Eternal? Well, they're gonna get punished. So we can opt, enable prowess again, and then Wizard's Lightning their face. Bottom the land. Unless they have a Fatal Push as well here, this Eternal is gonna smash in for quite a bit of damage. So had they just main phase a Magma Spray, this could have been avoided. Get in for 7. And play a tapped Spirebluff here, I think. And we've got 6 points of burn in hand, so I like our chances. We'll have to keep the Bloodfast in mind. Our opponent can potentially flip it and gain some life if they have a creature in play. So we'll see if we can play around that in any way. Adeliz, an excellent draw here. So we might have lethal now, if they can't interact. Alright, Essence Scatter, so let's see. Lightning Strike deals 6, 8, put them to 2. Or we can just get in for 4, put them to 6, not let them transform the Bloodfast, and then finish them off with double Lightning Strike. I think that's probably safer, not give them the extra mana, even though we do miss out on 1 prowess damage. But if Adeliz resolved there, then a Lightning Strike would deal 3 damage, 3 more from Adeliz, and then an additional prowess trigger, so that's a 7 damage Lightning Strike, which is pretty impressive. Alright, so now they're just at 2 double Lightning Strike. Don't even have to attack. And I doubt our opponent plays main deck Spell Pierces. Plus there's always the Afflict trigger on the Spellweaver Eternal as well. So your opponent's dead multiple ways. Alright, so up against Grixis midrange. How do we want to sideboard? Don't think we want to change much. Could make an argument for Spell Piercer or Negate. I think I'll bring in the Spell Piercers but not the Negates. Just to have a little bit of cheap interaction, cutting 2 Warlord's Furies. So we can maybe counter a removal spell at the right time. But our opponent's also playing quite a few creatures, so don't want to go overboard with Negates as well. Alright, this hand looks okay. The mana's a little awkward since we have to decide whether we want to play Soul-Scar Mage on 1 and then hope to draw an untapped land for the Spellweaver on 2. Or if we play the Sulfur Falls tapped on turn 1 and then for sure get to play a Spellweaver on 2. Don't think I want to risk it, and I just want to make sure we get to play our 2-drop on turn 2. But of course the best case scenario is playing Soul-Scar Mage on 1, drawing a basic land and then playing a 2-drop on turn 2. But we were not going to find it. So let's play a Spellweaver, and it's probably going to get either countered or killed. So we're off to a slower start. Opponent's on the play, so they have the initiative. And if they get to cast their more powerful threats, we could be in trouble, since the Nicol Bolas can definitely do a lot of work against us. Alright, opponent's stuck on 2. So they might have kept a somewhat greedy one. Think I'm fine playing Spellweaver plus Soul-Scar Mage here. But they probably have a removal spell for the Eternal. As we see Magma Spray for the Soul-Scar Mage, interesting. Alright, another Ether Hub. Just a Champion of Wits. But Warlord's Fury is going to be pretty decent here, giving our Eternal first strike. Let's play the Fury. Trigger Prowess, draw a card. And get in there with the Eternal. If they do play Nicol Bolas, there's a chance I want to double shock it, so we potentially miss out on 1 damage, but these shocks might be worth more pointed at our opponent's creatures. So I'll just play the Pyromancer. Alright, another Champion of Wits is fine. So we could also double shock here and kill both Champions of Wits. We'll see what we draw next turn. Adeliz is probably still one of our better draws. Opponent discards Doomfall. And there's a Swamp, so they might have a Fatal Push. Alright, another land, so we're flooding out a little bit, which could be an issue, especially if they have a Fatal Push here. I think we have to kill both Champions of Wits, since we're gonna need our creature-based damage here to be able to assemble enough damage to kill our opponents, I think. But if they have a push for the Eternal, then I don't like our chances. If they don't, then we still have a decent shot. Alright, so far so good. I'll play out the land. If we have to discard to Nicol Bolas, we can just discard a mountain. If this is a Scarab God, we could also be in trouble. Alright, instead it's a Warlord Virtuoso, quite strong as well against us. So those Thopter tokens will make it so we can't really attack on the ground anymore. If we can enable Prowess, then the Eternal can still get in there. Alright, so drawing a few too many lands now. I think we're just passing the turn. So now we're at the stage of the game where our opponent's at 9, and we just have to hope to draw some burn spells. And they also had the Abrade to take out Eternal. Could have also made the argument for attacking with Eternal just to get in 2 damage, but as it turns out they had an Abrade as well, and there's a Scarab God, which is not what we wanted to see, since that's going to close out the game rather quickly, so that's not going to give us a lot of time to draw out of it. Alright, let's start with an Opt. Pyromancer's 2 damage, puts them to 7. Is that better than a random draw? Probably. Alright, so Scarab God can get back Champion of Wits, which draws him 4 cards. But our opponent decided not to animate anything on upkeep. And instead they're doing it main phase. So yeah, attacking on the ground's not gonna work. There's a chance Adeliz can still get an attack in or 2, but our opponent still has the Virtuoso, which can make those Thopters to block with. So we're pretty much hoping to draw 3 burn spells in a row. And the Virtuoso's getting in there. I think we keep our Pyromancers back to block the Champion of Wits. And a Siphoner as well. Alright, Spell Pierce is not gonna do it. Would have been okay in some spots, so I don't hate bringing it in. This would have been another Warlord's Fury, which would not have really helped much. So now I think we're dead. We might as well concede, but I'll play it out here. It's not gonna take very long with the Scarab God in play. So we had a bit of a stumble in the early game, didn't manage to deploy our threats successfully. Our opponent had enough early interaction with Essence Scatters and Magma Sprays, and then of course drawing a few too many lands didn't help. But this is certainly one of the weaknesses of the Wizard deck, is that you don't have a ton of late game power, you just need that critical mass of damage. It always feels bad when the mid-range or control deck manages to stabilize your aggro deck, since then the opponent's having all the fun. But that's just part of it. Some games you're gonna win on turn 4 or 5, other games are gonna slow down to a crawl, and you're gonna have to sit through a number of Scarab God or Teferi activations. So do we change anything? I think I still like the 2 Spell Pierces over the Fury, although against the Thopter tokens from Virtuoso, Warlord's Fury could be useful. But I think we run it back, would like to be on the play. Alright, this is also a bit of a sketchy one, but we do have Opt and Fury to cycle. We have the perfect 1 land to have in our opening hand, so I think we keep and hope for the best. So we get to lead with Soul-Scar Mage. Next turn we get to probably Opt to give us the best chance of finding a land if we didn't already find a land. And our opponent's on a mulligan to 5. Looking for enough early interaction, maybe their mana base not cooperating, since there's definitely a cost to playing 3 colors. Alright, so let's Opt here. Bottom the shock. Alright, didn't get there. So we might get punished for our somewhat greedy keep. And another Soul-Scar Mage. So do we deploy an extra Soul-Scar Mage? Do we play the Warlord's Fury? I think we have to go for the Fury here in the hopes of finding an extra land we can play this turn. Since if we can just top deck a mountain, then we get to play Lavarunner, get in for a bunch of damage. It's gonna be Abrade on the Soul-Scar Mage, that's fine. Alright, not quite, but I'll take it. Alright, so we managed to get out of our mana screw. And we've got quite a few extra cards over our opponent, so let's see if we can convert those fast enough to where our opponent can't stabilize in time. So next turn we can go a double 1-drop, for example. Plays better around Essence Scatter. So if they either have an Essence Scatter or they want to kill the Soul-Scar Mage before we can play land and enable prowess somehow. I'm actually happy that they kill the Soul-Scar Mage, since now we get to get in for 2. And our opponent says go. I don't think I want to play Adeliz yet, so I'm probably going to end up casting Opt plus Pyromancer here. So let's attack for 2. Alright, they did have the Magma Spray. Let's play Pyromancer. Opponent still contemplating Essence Scatter here. Alright, there's the Essence Scatter. Alright, we'll say go here, I think. Already played a land for the turn. And then hope Adeliz gets to stick around at least. As we see Doomfall taking a look at our hand. So that's for sure gonna take Adeliz. So I guess we might as well let it resolve, give the opponent less information about the Opt. Alright, so we're stranded with no creatures, which is kind of an issue since we need our creatures to deal the largest chunk of damage. But we have a draw step plus an Opt to find some more creatures here. Oh, I accidentally skipped through my turn, so I didn't get to cast Opt. Well, at least we drew a Wizard's Lining, which is an okay draw. But definitely meant to cast Opt end of turn there. Bottom the land. Well, I guess it worked out in the end. So we've got 12 points of burn in hand, although the Wizard's Lining currently costs 3 mana. So we don't need much to close out the game, as we see Champion of Wits. So yeah, another Adeliz would be great, just more burn spells in general. Viashino Pyromancer, we've got some good draws here, so let's start pointing these at our opponents. I think I keep the land in hand to discard to potential Nicol Bolas, and we don't get to double spell anyway here. Opponent gets in for 2, so if we draw another haste creature, we can potentially get in for damage on the ground. Opponent says go. Wizard's Lining to 10. And just a land draw. So they don't know about these 2 remaining Wizard's Linings. And Field of Ruin on our Sulfur Falls. Sure. Opponent cycles a canyon and just a land. And we'll fire off another lightning. Put them to 7. And Soul-Scar Mage, I'll take it. Say go. So now we've got a threat or a potential blocker for the Champion of Wits, although we don't really want to block the Champion of Wits is a problem here, since then they get to eternalize it if they have another land. Opponent cycles Fetid Pools, so they're digging for more action. Champion of Wits is gonna stay back. And opt the draw. Let's opt. And another Soul-Scar Mage. It's not the worst draw, but it's pretty low on our list. I think almost every other card in our deck that's not a land is better. Alright, there we go, perfect. So, do we attack with Soul-Scar Mage is a question. I think I'm gonna keep back the Soul-Scar Mage for now. And then play the Pyromancer. Probably should have cast the Pyromancer in our first main phase. To see if it would resolve. Since now we can attack with both our creatures next turn. And get in for 2 damage potentially. Chandra's defeat on the Soul-Scar Mage, that's okay. Opponent says go. And just a Sulfur Falls a draw. So I think we hold steady here. Again, don't want to trade for a Champion of Wits when they can potentially eternalize it and then get ahead. I think we're happy with the status quo, since we just need to top deck another burn spell and have them resolve. Vraska's Contempt on the Pyromancer, that's unfortunate. It's gonna put them back up to 7. So now a single burn spell doesn't do it anymore. Alright, so now we're in a bit of trouble if our opponent finds an extra threat. And I'm gonna hold on to the lightning for now, so we can maybe enable prowess. Alright, Spell Pierce, a bit late now, probably not gonna counter much. So this could have been a Warlord's Fury, which I guess would have been a bit better now, hard to say. And our opponent probably has a few extra creature removal spells in hand at this point, so can't really rely on our creatures to deal the last points of damage. Alright, there's an Adeliz. It's not gonna get any better. And Torrential Gearhulk. Alright, that's actually fine. So that's gonna flash back a removal spell that we can Spell Pierce, and then we have Wizard's Lining. So we might have lethal here. Yep. Contempt on Adeliz. Spell Pierce your Contempt. And Wizard's Lining your face. And that should be exactly 7 damage. Oof, that was a close one. Did not think we were gonna end up winning this one. So just enough to get across the finish line, and in the end the Spell Pierce did do a pretty good job. So I wanna thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed this gameplay, and as always, have a nice day. I also want to thank all my patrons for supporting the channel, and you can do so yourself as well over at patreon.com/LegenVD, where you get cool rewards for supporting the channel, as well as getting us closer to our goals, where with every goal reached we will release an additional weekly series. So if you want to see more content, Patreon is the place to go.